A car is parked in an empty lot. We hear the sounds of a scuffle. Inside the car, a woman is fighting with a man. She asks him whether he remembers her, but he does not. After a fierce fight, she manages to shoot him. She drags his body out of the car and puts it in the trunk. We hear the sounds of sirens as she makes her escape. We are shown different shots of the city, the homeless, and back alleys. Two homeless kids keep an eye on a van parked on the side of the street in a dredged-up area of the city. The woman walks up to the car. She is hurt and bleeding. She reaches the van, finds a Christmas sock hanging on the door, and spots the kids watching from afar. The younger kid waves to her, and the older girl stops him. She goes inside. Inside the van is an entire arsenal. She bandages her wound, without any anesthesia, and staples the broken skin on it, using alcohol as a disinfectant. She finally looks into the sock and finds a brown paper-wrapped parcel. She opens it to find a box of peppermints. Suddenly she feels dizzy and sees flashes of a little girl calling her mom. 5 years back, the woman and her daughter are walking to their car in a grocery store parking lot when another woman calls after them. The mother and daughter are trying to escape, but the woman, Peg, catches up to them. Peg is trying to scold the woman, Riley, and her daughter, Carly, for not being involved in the Fireflies event, and for not attending the Den Mother meetings. Riley tells her that she cannot attend such silly meetings, as she is a working parent. Peg feels insulted and tells her she and Carly were never suited to be Firefly troops. As she leaves, Carly tells Riley that she should have just punched her, and Riley admonishes her lovingly. Riley's husband Chris is in his car workshop. His business is not doing very well. He is trying to ask one of his debtors to pay up, but they push it to next month. When Carly and Riley arrive, Riley drops off Carly and informs her husband that she will be a bit late for the birthday party they are having for Carly that evening. A friend comes to meet Chris at his workshop and tells him that he is planning something and needs Chris to be the getaway car driver. Chris is uncertain, as he does not want to do anything to jeopardize his family. His friend, Mickey, tells him that he has everything planned, and there is no risk. Mickey tells him he too has a family, and they will be doing this for both their families, to give them a better life. Chris asks him to give him some time to think it over. Riley reaches work and finds her boss at the door, about to leave. He tells her he needs her to close up for the day, as the others are out too. Riley tells him she needs to hurry home, but he does not relent and reminds her she was the one who asked for extra hours. When she finally gets home, she is surprised to see no one come to the party. Carly is playing with her toy and Chris gestures to the answering machine. She plays the last message, which is from Peg, inviting her to a meetup she is holding for all the Fireflies and their mothers at her place. Riley realizes that Peg did it deliberately to hurt Carly. But she and Chris manage to cheer up Riley by telling her they will go to the Christmas carnival and have ice cream. A man in a parked car watches him and informs someone on the phone that he got the other one. Before they leave, Chris calls Mickey and informs him he is out of the plan, as he feels it's too risky and not worth it. Mickey misses the call, as he is at Diego Garcia's place. The drug lord he was trying to steal from. Garcia found out about it and so had his goons get Mickey. He hurts Mickey and eventually beheads him. He asks his men to teach a lesson to Chris too, make an example out of him to warn everyone else, so that no one would ever even think of trying to steal from him. At the carnival, they enjoy all the rides and even take pictures. They get ice cream before they head home. While walking towards the car, Riley asks Chris to go ahead with Carly, as she rushes back to get some extra napkins. Chris and Carly are about to reach the car when two gunmen in a moving car shoot them down. Riley rushes toward them, but is shot too. Two cops reach the crime scene. A paramedic is talking about the woman having been shot in the head and hemorrhaging. One of the cops, Detective Carmichael, walks up to the bodies of the father and the daughter. He looks up at his partner, who joins him. They talk about how theirs is a difficult job, especially when there is a child involved. The partner, Moises, tells him that it should be difficult, as that is what separates them from the bad guys. In the hospital, Riley wakes up from a medically induced coma. The doctor tells Detective Carmichael that she is in no condition to discuss the case, as when she got her memory back, she tried to harm herself. The detective talks to Riley and informs her that the attack on her family was orchestrated by Diego Garcia, as her husband planned to rob him. Riley refuses to believe her husband would do something like that, and Carmichael reassures her that Chris had already declined to be a part of it, they found his message to Mickey on his answering machine. But Riley gets hysterical, and the doctor asks Carmichael to leave. The detective tries to explain to the doctor that the 3 shooters will have to be let go if Riley is unable to identify them. Barely conscious, Riley hears this and tells him she saw them. They take her to the police station, where she identifies the 3 men easily. Later, Moises cautions Carmichael about going after Garcia, as anyone else who has dared to do that has ended up disappearing. Riley goes back home to pack the house, as the bank has foreclosed on it. She gets emotional looking at her daughter's drawings. A man steps inside the house. He tells her that he is a friend, and offers his condolences. He spots the psychiatric medicines on the kitchen counter and asks her about them. She puts them aside. He tells her that after some time passes, when she feels ready to move on, she should get a fresh start. He offers her money, and tells her she may be confused about what she thought she saw that day. She is shocked and disgusted, and asks him to get out of her home. At the trial, the man turns out to be the goon's lawyer, the 3 men Riley had identified as the shooters. He proves in court that she is mentally unstable and so her testimony could not be trusted. He provokes Riley and deliberately goads her, but the judge ignores her pleas. Even the DA fails to defend her. The accused men go free, and Riley loses it. She faints, and the judge asks for her to be sent to the psych hospital. As they take her, Carmichael comes and asks the orderlies to treat her better. Riley hits Carmichael with a gas bottle and escapes. Carmichael and Moises visit Carlene Chris's grave to find a bloody handprint on it, telling them Riley had been there earlier. Back to the present, Carmichael arrives at a crime scene. He and Moises rib at each other, until he spots the bodies hanging from the Ferris wheel. At the FBI office, Agent Lisa Inman hears about someone spotting Riley at a gun store robbery, where military-grade arms and ammo were stolen. At the crime scene, Carmichael asks Moises whether it could be somehow related to their old case from 5 years ago. Later, he gets a call from the FBI. Riley is in the van, filling a handbag with guns, ammo, and explosives. She leaves. The kids and a homeless man watch her go. At the FBI office, Inman explains to Moises and Carmichael that 5 years ago, Riley stole $55,000 from the bank she used to work at and disappeared. The LAPD detectives are left surprised, and cannot comprehend how the Riley they know from 5 years ago could be involved in something like this. At the judge's place, Riley has him tied up with explosive rope. She asks the judge to think back on the number of times he betrayed his oath and failed to provide justice. She nails his hands to the desk. She asks him to identify her and remember how he wronged her, but he is unable to. At the FBI office, Inman explains that they have been keeping an eye out for her since she stole the money. A few years ago, they found her in Hong Kong, where she appeared at a hospital with a dislocated shoulder and fractures. But before they could apprehend her, she disappeared. Then after some time, they were able to pull up a video of her fighting in an underground fight club somewhere in Europe, and thereafter, 3 months ago she returned to LA and stole army-grade weapons. And now the 3 men who hurt her family have been executed. Moises wonders why she came back, when Inman asks him if he remembers the date. At the judge's place, Riley picks up a toy displayed near his desk, which reminds her of Carly's toy. She walks out of there and gets on a bus. She makes a call on the bus, which triggers the rope tied to the judge, and it explodes. At the FBI office, Carmichael receives a call that the lawyer, the DA, and the judge from the trial 5 years ago have also been murdered. Garcia is at his workshop, in a meeting with the cartel boss's son. His men come in to inform him about the lawyer's and judge's murders, along with 3 of his men. He asks them to find Riley and end her, and to send his girlfriend in with drinks. The cartel boss's son gives him a warning about the 2 drops that went missing in the last couple of weeks. His girlfriend walks in a low-cut dress, to serve them drinks. She is uncomfortable and is sporting several bruises. Garcia hoped to lure the cartel boss's son towards his girlfriend, but he ignores her, so Garcia sends her out. The cartel boss's son tells him that he needs to find out what happened, fast, and reminds him that he still answers to the cartel boss. On the bus, Riley speaks to a young boy who is traveling with his father, who is passed out drunk in the seat next to him. She hands him the toy she took from the judge's place. At the stop, the boy nudges his father awake. The man gets up, and when they step off the bus, goes straight to the liquor store. He asks the boy to wait outside as he heads in. Inside, Riley takes him down, puts a gun in his mouth, and makes him promise to stop drinking and look after his son. She gets his address off of his driver's license and tells him she will keep an eye on him. She even threatens the store owner to never sell any liquor to the man. She takes the storekeeper's car keys, gives him money for them, and leaves. Riley follows a man. He goes into a building, which is where Garcia's money laundering operations take place. He is colluding with the Korean mob and helping them launder the money. She disguises herself as a homeless person and walks up to the entrance. Two goons spot her, but she easily dispenses them. The goons inside are counting money, and the man, Marvin, is also with them. A news report plays out on the TV about Riley. Inside, she pulls out a combat shotgun and starts shooting at all the goons. She single-handedly fights them off, and enters the room where Marvin and others are counting the money. She shoots everyone else in the room except Marvin, as she needs him to answer a few questions for her. Marvin goes to Garcia and tells him about what occurred. He tells him she threatened his life, so he revealed all the details of Garcia's operations, and she also burnt all the money they had at the building. Garcia orders his men to double up the security and end Riley before the day ends. The newscasters discuss Riley. They say how the internet is buzzing with stories about her. Also about Chris and Carly, how all the events may be connected to the drive-by shooting incident from 5 years ago. Moises and Carmichael investigate the building fire and realize it was one of Garcia's fronts. Inman is also with them. Moises teases Carmichael about flirting with Inman. He laughs it off and suggests that they should reach out to the narcotics department too and find out about possible locations of Garcia's other operations, so they can maybe figure out Riley's next attack. Moises asks him to be careful whom he approaches with the questions. Inman tells them they should look into possible hideout spots for Riley, as she has been in LA for 3 months, and so would have a place to rest. Carmichael takes her to the crime analysis unit. The Korean mob gets Marvin and warns Garcia of worse. As they leave, Garcia discusses with his men about how she has been studying their activities for a while, and was also responsible for the lost consignments of the cartel. She is the reason that not only the cartel, but even the mob, is after him now. So, he devises a plan to lure Riley, Indiana. Riley looks at the pictures of her daughter and husband that they took at the carnival that day. She imagines Carly sitting in the back seat of the car. She shrugs it off and gets the combat shotgun ready. At the crime analysis unit, the operator tells Inman that they monitor the crime in the city and update the locations in real time. She asks him about any anomalies she may have found going back a couple of weeks. As bodies drop wherever Riley has been, they may be able to figure out her location through the data. They don't find any unusual spike in crimes anywhere. The operator informs them that social media is talking about Riley, and public opinion is on her side. Just then, Inman spots a place on the map which shows a negligible crime rate. She asks the operator whether that is normal. The operator is surprised and calls it unusual. The area is called Skid Row, and the decline in crime is very sudden. Riley arrives at the drug lab and sneaks in, but finds it empty of people. She spots the wired explosives though. Garcia's men keep an eye on the lab from afar, and wait for Riley to step on any of the booby traps and trigger it. Riley moves too stealthily for them to notice. But one of them catches a shadow moving and realizes she is inside. They trigger the explosives, the lab goes up in flames. Carmichael and Inman are looking at maps of the city, trying to figure out Riley's location. They get an update about the explosions. Inman leaves, saying she is following a hunch. Moises calls Carmichael, asking about the explosions and connection to Garcia. He asks if the location of the explosion is one of the places the narco police shared with them of possible Garcia operation locations. Carmichael tells him he hasn't heard back from the narcotics department yet. Riley manages to get out of the explosion range and hides in an underground sewer. As the goons leave, she hijacks a car and follows them out. Garcia receives a call from his men informing him about the explosion, and confirming that Riley is finished. Inman heads to Skid Row. She spots the kids and the homeless man. She asks the homeless man if it's safe for the kids to be out there so late at night. The homeless man tells her it's safe now, as they have an angel. He leaves, and Inman spots graffiti depicting a woman in a hoodie with angel wings. Riley rams her car into Garcia's men's car. She ends them, but before that, gets his home location from them. At Garcia's estate, He watches the news report where a witness says he saw Riley hijack a man's car and leave in a hurry. Just then, a pickup truck enters the compound and smashes into the building. Garcia asks his men to turn off the lights. Riley hides behind the car and shoots her way inside. She finds Garcia's woman, cowering in fear and bruised by his abuse. She sets her free and shoots out the goons. Garcia comes face to face with Riley. They fight, and she holds him at gunpoint. He asks her what she wants with him, and she tells him she is looking for justice. Just then, his daughter comes inside the room, and Riley gets distracted. Garcia uses her distraction to stab her, as his daughter runs to him. Riley manages to escape before his men get in. She tumbles down a slope in the forest behind his house. She makes her way to the main road and somehow reaches Peg's house. She punches Peg in the face and ties her up. She puts pads on her stab wound to stop the blood. Peg screams at her and insults her, and Riley responds by asking whether her husband finally left her. Peg is terrified and wets herself. Riley tells her that she plans to burn down her house. Riley leaves, laughing, calling it a joke over her shoulder as Peg struggles. At Garcia's now abandoned house, the cops take in the bodies. Moises asks another cop if he has heard from Carmichael, as he is unable to locate him. He spots a narcotics cop and questions him about not cooperating with them. The narco cop tells him he has been trying to get in touch with Carmichael since morning, but hasn't had any luck. Moises is shocked to know that Carmichael has been lying to him. At Skid Row, the kids watch as Carmichael arrives. He meets Inman, who asks about backup, and he tells her they are on their way. Inman shows him a van parked there, unlocked and carrying the arsenal that was stolen from the shop. She tells him that it has to be Riley's hideout. She even shows him the graffiti. Carmichael asks her about the next step. She tells him they will keep the area under surveillance and capture Riley alive, so that they can get all of Garcia's operation info from her and eventually take down his whole business, including all the people involved within their organization. Carmichael stops her, apologizes to her, and shoots her. He calls Garcia and tells him he has Riley's possible location. Garcia asks him to wait up, as he is on his way. Riley makes her way to Skid Row and hides in an abandoned warehouse. Garcia and his men arrive there too. They start looking for Riley. Meanwhile, Riley lies semi-conscious and imagines Carly waking her up. One of the goons enters, but she overpowers him and gets a hold of his communicator, so she hears his partner announcing he is coming in too. A group of goons enters, and Riley manages to get them all. Carmichael is waiting to hear back from the goons, so when they go silent, he guesses that she is there. Riley speaks to the communicator. She asks the men to leave if they want to save themselves. She only wants Garcia, so the others can leave him and go, or else she will shoot every single one of them. Garcia says she is bluffing. At the LAPD office, Moises and others are trying to locate Inman. Moises notices a news report. Riley is live on the news. She shows a video of Garcia and his goons at Skid Row, and also shows Carmichael, and calls him out as a corrupt cop. She asks the media and news outlets to come down to film all of this, and also calls on the LAPD to catch her. Garcia finds one of the kids who have been helping Riley and holds her at gunpoint to bring Riley out. He tells Riley that if she does not step out on 5 counts, he will shoot the kid. Riley comes out from hiding and asks him to let the kid go. Riley goads him into hitting her instead. Carmichael cautions Garcia that she is trying to hold him there, and that they should leave, but he continues to hit her. Just as he is about to shoot her, the cops arrive. Garcia thinks Carmichael set him up and shoots him instead. He runs, trying to get away, and Riley follows him. She is about to shoot him when Moises reaches them and stops her, as he has her surrounded. Riley does pay heed and shoots Garcia. The cops fire at her, but she escapes. She goes to Chris and Carly's grave, where Moises finds her and requests her to surrender. Riley tells him she is done and loses consciousness. She wakes up in the hospital, cuffed to the bed. Moises visits her. He tells her a lot of the cops feel she was justified. He palms the handcuff keys to her, allowing Riley to escape.